Okay, so now we've got a sea bass, okay, and we're going to prepare this ready for pan frying. This is a whole fish, you can see it still got its guts in. Nobody's done anything to this yet, okay? So what we've got to do is get it ready. First of all, just going to check it's a nice fish. You can see it's wet, which is a good sign, okay? It's got nice wet gills, the eyes look fresh. It wants to just look pretty much alive as much as possible, okay? Smell-wise, just of the sea, okay, and nice and firm. Now this has got scales on it, which is one thing we do have to get rid of before we start doing anything else, okay? So to do that, see how thick those scales are, okay? Now if I was just to rake them off like that, they tend to ping off and stick to everything. So I'm going to take it to a sink of water, fill it right up with cold water, get the back of my knife, and I'm just going to rake them off underneath the water and just let them collect up in the sink drain. So before we're actually going to get our fish out, we're going to make sure our knife is nice and sharp, okay? What I'm going to be using is a flexible knife. You can see how flexible that is? You can see that? I can bend it right down on the table like that. So if I'm skinning a fish, that's all flat, that whole part of it there, okay? First of all, we've got to get it sharp though. So what you want is a nice kind of rough feel to it. If it feels kind of too smooth, it's just not quite sharp enough. So what I've got here is a diamond flat stone, okay? And what I like about that is that I can ensure that the whole of the knife is sharp because I'm going to be using the tip a lot, okay? And if I'm using a rod, then you can find you miss the tip. So on here, nice little circular motions like that, sharpening it away. And these can be quite aggressive, these stones with the diamonds on it, so you don't want to spend too long doing it because you will get a good edge fairly quickly. And if I just rub it on there, yeah, that feels nice and sharp now. If you imagine touching the edge of a razor blade, how thin it feels, that's what we're looking for, okay? So, to get the fillet off, what we want to do is make sure we get the most of the meat behind the head. So our first cut, we're going to angle the knife in a little bit like that, okay, rather than just straight. So, in there, right down there, there. That's our first cut, okay? Now it's a fairly straightforward cut right the way down the fish. This is what we do with round fish, okay? If you're filleting a flat fish or a bream, something like that, then it's a slightly more technical process. We can get our knife in here, find our way on top of the bone, okay? Now you will be cutting through pin bones, but this is a sharp knife and it will sail through those pin bones. But what's important is that you keep your knife nice and flat like that so that we stay on top of the backbone and we don't start cutting down through it or leaving any flesh on the bones, okay? So all the way along like that. And there we go. Take that off like that. That's a lot of roe in there, so just going to get rid of that. Okay, so let's just move that off for the moment. So now what we have is the rib area, okay? We need to get rid of those ribs, and we've got the pin bones that run all the way down there. We need to get rid of those as well, okay? So get our knife underneath those bones, and then using the whole length of the blade, we're going to try and scoop off that whole area, but in a nice shallow scoop. You can bend the knife with it, there we go, okay? All our ribs are in that area there. Okay, now that leaves us with just the pin bones, okay? Now the pin bones are the annoying little ones that you end up getting stuck on your throat, and they run all the way down there, okay? So the best way to get rid of those is by having your knife nice and flat, get the pin bones in a straight line, and cut all the way along like that, just one side of the pin bones, okay? And if I open that up to show you, you can see I'm right the way down to the skin there, okay? But I've got to be careful not to go through the skin or else your fillet's going to fall in half. Then if I go just the other side of those pin bones, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut a little kind of trench where the pin bones are in the middle. So can you see that little strip there? Yeah. That's where all the pin bones are in there. Now, sometimes you'll see people with pliers, tweezers, picking those out. That will pick lumps of flesh out with it and leave it a bit untidy. With this, what we can do is if we just scoop the first little bit out like that, okay, we can then, with the tip of our knife, just run it along like that, and in an ideal world, it will just keep coming out. Now, at this point there, those are your biggest pin bones. You don't really need to worry about these ones down here because they're so small. But if you're on a roll, you might as well just stick with it. like that, just tickling it either side with the blade if you need to. And then, there you go, those are all your pin bones, all in one place. Okay. That should be a boneless fillet.